Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and to another instalment in the Sydney Railroad build. In the previous instalment you will have seen me build benchwork for the main yard area in the centre of the room. This week I'm going to jump across to the other side of the peninsula and frame up the benchwork that will support the paper mill. So without further ado, let's just head out into the workshop and get to work. The next frame I want to build is the one that supports the bulk of the paper mill, and if you recall from the plan, that has a graceful reverse curve around the front edge. So I left the curve framing for that gluing up over the weekend. I've just come out here this morning, taken off all the clamps and cleaned it up on the table saw. I have one full length piece, 8-footers with the straight front, and another shorter, a 4-foot piece to build the other end of the reverse curve out of. And since they're both about the same radius, the easiest way to do it was to clamp them to the same blocks, do them together. So that's what I did. It doesn't matter that the shorter one is an inch larger radius than the other one, because you'll never see it. And they don't even have to line up with anything below. Anyway, it's still really cold out here. I've got the heater on, but I'm going to go inside and let it warm up a bit, because it's 40 degrees and it's not comfortable working. My fingers are like ice buckets. So here is the curved front stringer of the main paper mill frame. It's positioned approximately where it goes, just temporarily supported on legs and clamps. I haven't leveled it, there's no need to. I just got to get it close enough to the right place so I can take some measurements on it. The critical one is this line that I've marked in here. Hopefully you can see it on the camera because I'm not looking through the viewfinder. And that tells me where the corner of the frame behind it goes. And then I can work everything else out from there. So let me get this back to the workbench, start building this frame, and I'll see you again soon. Well, that is the center portion of that frame done. I've also spliced a piece on the end because this curved front chord has to be slightly more than 8 feet long. That is about all I can do at the workbench. I've now got to offer it up, and most of the rest of it is going to have to be built in situ. So let me get it over there and I will be right back. Well, here is that frame positioned approximately where it needs to go. I do have to take it back to the workbench and make one small adjustment. I have to trim this piece here where the clamps are by about 1/8 of an inch. I have marked it. I think it's a big 1/8. Then once I've done that, there's a few more pieces that I can attach, and then I'll bring it back again. So let me do that, and I will see you again soon. Well, here is this frame clamped to the rest of the railroad. It's in exactly the right place laterally, and I have leveled it. I'm not sure that it's the correct height. In fact, I think it needs to go down 3/8 of an inch. The intention is that the paper mill will have a sandwich of 1/2-inch plywood and 1/2-inch foam, but those areas at the back where the paper mill spurs go onto the framework for the main yard, I built that higher to give me maximum clearance over the Helix. And there I will need to put foam rubber on the plywood. Since the paper mill is a short line subsidiary, it's not going to have high ballast shoulders. I think all their trackage is going to be laid directly on the 1/2-inch foam. So that's why I think I need a 3/8 inch step. I need to check the 1/2-inch foam because one batch that I bought actually ended up 5/8. And if that's the case, then this will need to go down 1/2 an inch instead of 3/8. Anyway, I'm going to go in now, get some food, make a final decision on exactly how high it has to be, and then I'm going to install it. Well, here is this frame almost done. It was almost done last night. I tried to make a clip, but the camera ran out of storage space, so I'm going to redo it this morning. Most of it is now done. I still got one joist to go in this big gap, and a couple of cross braces. I always put the cross braces on long joists because it stiffens the whole lot quite considerably. Most of that big opening at the back is an access opening. I've still got to support it 2 more places at the front, one towards that end and one about here. I built this bracket off the edge of the Helix to support the end of it, and it also supports these small triangular frame that goes in here. It'll start here, rest on that, and fill in this corner. Here is a technique that I don't think I've showed you before, how to cut fine angles on the miter saw. This only goes to 60 degrees, and I need slightly more than that. I need a 23-degree sharp point on the end of this. So I built myself a 90-degree jig, which I clamp to the fence over this one side, and then clamp the workpiece to the other side of it here. So now it's all held firmly, and I can pull the blade down and cut a fine angle safely. If I needed a much finer angle than this, and I don't have room for the clamp in there, I could just screw this board to the template instead. I just thought I'd share that with you while I'm cutting these fine angles. Well, that is all the missing framing and supports completed. A mini leg and bracket in here, and a spacer along here, a tapered spacer. That's not attached yet because of the next step. And that next step is to cut all the clearance holes out of the lower framing for the Helix to go through. And since there's quite a lot of them, I think the easiest thing to do is going to be to unbolt it and take it back to the workbench. So while it's at the workbench, it'll be a lot easier to screw this up from the bottom. So I might as well do that at the same time. So let me get on with that, and I will be right back. I have now got all the holes cut to clear the top of the Helix. That was a bit of a fight, even upside down on the workbench. It would have been even more difficult in situ. So I'm glad I made the decision to remove it. What I've got to do now is put it back in the hole, and then I'll put some stiffeners on these last few joists where most of the frame has been cut out. So let me do that quickly, and I'll talk to you again later. Well, here are all the stiffeners installed. 6, 7 of them, I think. This is the most critical one, so I've cut the clearance down to 1/4 inch instead of 3/8, just to give me slightly more wood. And note how they're not all on the same side of the joist. That is because this gap here is where the rotary dumper goes. So I need a pit, and I've only got about 1/2 inch of clearance. So I couldn't put any stiffeners in between those two joists. Anyway, I'm going to go inside now, get some food. My stomach is telling me that it's way overdue for lunchtime. And I'll come back out this afternoon, and I'll talk to you again later. Well, I've just come back out after lunch, and there is one more thing that I want to do before I move on to the next frame. If we duck under into the Helix and bang my head, we can see the corner of the other frame that I built a couple of days ago on the other side of the peninsula. It's lower than this one. So what I want to do is cut out the bottom of that frame to give more headroom in the dispatcher's office. I didn't think about it earlier. It would have been a lot easier if I'd calculated it and done it before I'd installed it. But it's not going to be too hard. I'll just use an oscillating saw and use the frame next to it as a guide to get a straight line. So let me get on with that, and I'll be right back. Well, I think that makes a big difference. There's now nothing for the dispatcher to bang his head on when he pushes his chair back. It wasn't difficult, but it was surprisingly tiring holding the oscillating saw up above my head for what seemed like a very long time. I've also put some more supports in here under these two joists, and I think I'm going to call that done as far as the support is concerned. It is now rock solid. So now just let me go away, figure out what to do next, and I will be right back. Well, this frame that supports the paper mill yard turned out to be a little more complex than I expected, especially at this end where I've got to allow for the road bed for the falling main line to cut right through the frame, and of course still make sure it's structurally sound. The tunnel portal goes just a few inches before the end of this section, which is why I can get away with having that big beam over the top of the track. Anyway, I had hoped to get this finished today, but that's not going to happen. It's already dark outside, and Zeus is going to want feeding, so I'm just going to go in now, and I will see you again some other time. Well, the framing for the paper mill is now done. This section here has the bulk of the yard on it, with the main line dropping down in front of it towards the Helix. This next big section is where the bulk of the buildings go, and I've just finished this fill-in piece this morning. I haven't been out here a lot in the last week or so. It's just been too darn cold. I just haven't wanted to be out here. So I've been catching up on work inside instead. Well, that's all for this week. Hope you enjoyed the show and found it useful or interesting or both. Next week I will continue where I left off and we'll get the rest of the peninsula finished. And I hope to see you back here for that. So until then, thanks for watching and bye for now.